Hello, and welcome to Bible Reading with Matthew. My name is Matthew, and I will be reading the Bible from beginning to end. To start this off, I would like to give a brief summary of who I am and what has led me to begin this endeavor. As a child, I was raised in church. My parents always made sure that me and my siblings were in church, learning God's Word and being raised to be Christians. As a child, I said the sinner's prayer many times, but I never truly understood what that meant. And as I got older, I thought I knew. I knew a lot about the Bible, but I never truly knew who God was. Until one day, I was married to my wife. I enlisted in the Air Force for 8 years. While in the Air Force, my wife and I had 5 boys. Near the end of that, certain events took place that began a journey for me to begin to understand that I didn't know what I thought I knew. While I was in the Air Force, I never spent a whole lot of time with my family, using the Air Force as an excuse, even though I was always at home. When I got out, I decided to go truck driving, which kept me away from my family for real. And it was during that time that I realized that I wanted to do something to read stories to my sons before going to bed. I never started it because I'd convinced myself that I didn't have the time or that I would never be able to stay dedicated to it for very long. But it didn't take too long after that before I realized that truck driving was not going to work, because my wife and I joined a small local church after moving back home closer to family. And during that time was when I began to realize that all the information that I'd ever learned about the Bible was not good enough. It was in that little church that for the first time ever, that the pastor took the time to teach theology. And so it was during that time that I began to learn more about the Bible and about God than I ever had before. From learning that theology, it started me on a multi-year journey of drawing in as much information as I could possibly find through other YouTube videos and channels to discover just who this God really was and how it applied to the Bible, and basically relearning everything that I had learned or thought I had learned as a child growing up in church. Shortly afterwards, after having a conversation with our pastor at the time, and going through some difficult times my wife and I were going through, our pastor and I agreed that this was a salvation moment for me. And that may sound weird to some people, but let me explain. Growing up in church, I had said the sinner's prayer so many times. I grew up in church. I knew what the Bible said. I always believed I was saved, even though I never truly lived it. And then as an adult, I realized that there was things that had to change. So for me, if I'm answering honestly, it's difficult for me to give an exact time and date and place of when I was saved. But whether it was as a child, when I said the sinner's prayer the first time, or as an adult after talking to our pastor, regardless of when it happened, I do truly believe right now that I am saved. And that point of salvation can be debated by theologians around the world, but I know what God has done for me, and I trust that He has saved me. Now for present day and the purpose of this channel. In recent weeks, I've been feeling convicted that I haven't been doing enough to spread the gospel, to share it with other people. After having a conversation with my brother, the desire to create a channel for reading was reignited. Except this time decided I was going to tweak it just a little bit, in that rather than reading bedtime stories, I would read God's Word. I also noticed that here recently, my reading has dropped off. And my hope is that with this channel, this will be a sort of accountability to help me stay on top of reading, to get back into reading like I used to, reading more of God's Word and learning and playing a part in the spreading of God's Word to the parts of the world that will allow people to even watch these videos in the first place. For my last point, I would like to share what this channel is not. I am not a theologian, and I don't pretend to be one. I'm just a normal person trying to read God's Word. You'll notice on this channel that I'm reading exactly what the text says. I'm not here to debate what it says or what it means exactly, because I don't feel that I have the training to do that. There are plenty of other people who have done that and still do that. I'll let them have that platform. I just want to read God's Word, and I just want to let God's Spirit guide me to its application in my life. And hopefully He'll do the same thing for you, whoever watches this. The version of the Bible that I will be reading is the English Standard Version, the ESV. Now, for those who may not like that, I understand that there are bad translations that exist around the world. I do not feel that the ESV is one of those. So I'm not here to tell you what you should read or what you should not read. I would hope that God's Spirit guides you to the right answer for that. The plan that I have to start out with for reading is to read a portion of the Old Testament and then a portion of the New Testament, followed by a piece of Psalms and a chapter of Proverbs each day. There are a number of plans available where you can read through the Bible in a year, read through it in 6 months or in 3 months. I'm just going to take it a little piece at a time, and however long that takes, it takes. I anticipate it will probably take a little over a year in total of doing this each day. And what I'll do beyond that, I haven't decided yet, but I imagine I have plenty of time to figure that out by the end. To conclude this introduction, it is my hope that these videos reach whoever they need to reach in God's timing. I do believe that God preserves His Word for those who need it, and I feel like this can reach plenty of people. There is potential for it. I don't know what God's plan is for this channel. I hope it is useful in His will and His plan. And if it is, then so be it. I'm here. I'm making myself available to be His vessel, to read His Word to those who need it.